A desert planet, a resource the entire galaxy depends on, an empire that treats entire worlds like property, and a young man who appears destined to free an oppressed people. At first, Dune looks like the perfect story of liberation. But there is a problem. By the end of the story, Paul Atreides does not destroy the imperial system. He takes control of it. So, is Paul really a liberator? Or does Dune show us how easily a revolution can create a new emperor? To answer that question, we have to look beyond the hero and examine the system surrounding him. The politics of Dune are much bigger than the conflict between House Atreides and House Harkonnen. The Emperor controls the Empire's elite military force. The Great Houses compete through the Landsraad. Crom controls enormous commercial profits. The Spacing Guild controls interstellar travel. And the Bene Gesserit shape bloodlines, beliefs, and political expectations across generations. But all of these powers depend, directly or indirectly, on a single planet, Arrakis. This means the struggle for Dune is not simply a battle for territory. It is a struggle for control over the center of an entire world order. Political theorist Robert Cox gives us a useful way to understand this system. Cox distinguishes between theories that solve problems inside an existing order and critical theory, which asks how that order was created, whose interests it serves, and how it might change. He argues that every historical structure rests on three connected forces: material capabilities, ideas, and institutions. In Dune, material power includes spice, armies, water, and transportation. Ideas include prophecy, noble legitimacy, and the belief that imperial hierarchy is natural. Institutions include Chom, the Guild, the Landsraad, and the Bene Gesserit. None of these elements rules alone. Together, they make the entire system durable. Spice is often compared to oil, and the comparison is useful. It is concentrated in one region. It generates immense wealth, and the great powers cannot function without it. But spice is even more powerful than oil. It extends life, supports the ability to see possible futures, and makes safe interstellar travel possible. This creates a chain of dependency. The Guild needs spice to move its ships. The Great Houses need the Guild to trade and wage war, and Cho-Am profits from the entire system. Paul's final advantage, therefore, is not only military. He gains the power to interrupt the resource on which the entire world order depends. The strongest actor is not always the one with the most weapons. Sometimes, it is the one who can stop the whole system from moving. Resources do not organize themselves. Institutions turn power into a stable political order. The Emperor, the Landsraad, Cho-Am, and the Spacing Guild divide military authority, commercial profit, and control over movement. Their rules may appear universal, but they also protect the actors who already hold power inside the system. Even law does not stand completely outside politics. The transfer of Arrakis can be presented as a legal imperial appointment, while the same empire secretly prepares the destruction of House Atreides. This is why replacing one ruler is not the same as replacing the entire order. When the same institutions remain, they can simply reorganize themselves around a new center of power. The ruler changes, but the machine continues to operate, and Cho-Am profits from the entire system. Paul's final advantage, therefore, is not only military. He gains the power to interrupt the resource on which the entire world order depends. The strongest actor is not always the one with the most weapons. Sometimes, it is the one who can stop the whole system from moving. The most unusual source of power in Dune is prophecy. Long before Jessica and Paul arrived, The Bene Gesserit's Missionaria Protectiva had planted religious patterns inside vulnerable societies. These myths could later be used to protect a Bene Gesserit in danger. On Arrakis, Jessica recognizes the pattern and adapts it. But this does not mean the Fremen are simply foolish or passive. Beliefs can never be controlled perfectly. The Fremen connect the prophecy to their own suffering, their hopes, and their vision of an ecological future. But the result is still political. A prepared myth gives Paul a language of legitimacy that no ordinary outsider could possess. Prophecy becomes a bridge between an external project and a local struggle. But the machine continues to operate, and Cho-Am profits from the entire system. Paul's final advantage, therefore, is not only military. He gains the power to interrupt the resource on which the entire world order depends. The strongest actor is not always the one with the most weapons. Sometimes, it is the one who can stop the whole system from moving. This is where the ideas of Amílcar Cabral become useful. Cabral argued that culture is not simply decoration. It grows from a people's history, their material conditions, their social relationships, and their struggle with the environment. Fremen culture works in exactly this deeper sense. Their discipline around water, their knowledge of still suits, their sietch organization, their ecological planning, and their desert warfare are all connected. The Fremen already possess knowledge, organization, and military power, long before Paul becomes Muad'Dib. Paul does not create their resistance. He learns from it, gains legitimacy within it, and eventually redirects it. That distinction matters. Without Fremen agency, Dune becomes a simple story about a gifted outsider saving a passive population. But the evidence suggests something more complicated. The outsider succeeds because a powerful local movement already exists. Paul does achieve something real. He defeats the Harkonnens, breaks the Emperor's military position, and places Fremen power at the center of galactic politics. Calling this victory meaningless would ignore the collapse of an exploitative regime. But Paul's method also reveals the limits of his liberation. He uses control of the spice, dynastic marriage, military victory, and sacred authority to claim the imperial throne. The old ruler falls, but the throne remains. The great institutions do not disappear. They are simply forced to recognize a new center of power. Paul is therefore both a liberator and a new sovereign. This contradiction is not a mistake in the story. It is the story. Dune Messiah makes this warning impossible to ignore. Paul is no longer only the young rebel of the first story. He becomes the center of a religious empire. Around him stand officials, priests, military power, and people competing for access to him. The Fremen victory spreads far beyond Arrakis as a devastating jihad. Paul may understand the danger. He may even dislike many of its consequences. But intention is not the same thing as political structure. A system built around one sacred leader has very few independent limits. This is the hero trap. People begin to believe that a good ruler can replace strong institutions. But Frank Herbert's sequel asks us to do something harder, to look beyond the charisma of the leader and examine what grows in his name. Dune is not simply pro-empire, and it is not a simple celebration of revolution. It exposes colonial extraction, respects the power of local knowledge, and shows an oppressed people defeating their rulers. But it also warns us that victory can reproduce the structures it claims to destroy. The ruler changes, the symbols change, the center of power moves to Arrakis, yet resource monopoly, sacred authority, military force, and weak institutional limits remain. Paul frees the Fremen from one empire and leads them into another. So, what do you think? Is Paul a liberator, a new emperor, or both? So in the end, we return to the central question. Did Paul liberate an oppressed people, or did he simply become a new emperor? Dune does not give us an easy answer, and that is exactly what makes it politically fascinating. Is Paul a liberator, a new emperor, or both? And that is why Dune is more than a story about a hero. It is a story about power, legitimacy, and the way political systems can survive even after a revolution. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this analysis, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to World in Focus for more film and international relations videos.